And welcome back. My name is Hannah and this is Jar of Fireflies. Here you'll find content all about my life as an Orthodox Jewish homeschooling mother of 3. And today, I'm answering your questions. Okay folks, and we are back to continue on with our Q&A little mini series here. I have done a bunch of other Q&A videos in the past, by the way, and I will put all those on a playlist and link to that in the description box below. But in the meantime, let's dive right back into the questions that you guys have asked me for this round of Q&A. Okay, the next question is from Maya. Were you raised Orthodox? No. As I said before, I was raised Catholic. I then converted to Judaism in my 20s. Okay, will your boys grow peyote? For those that don't know, peyote or peyos, as some people call them, are when the Orthodox men and boys have those kind of ringlets going down here. Not exactly. So my husband doesn't really do this. He just doesn't really cut it very long here, like this part of the hair right here. And that's what we do with our boys too. So we're not like cutting that part, but we're not like growing out this large chunk right there. For us, when we talked about it, because most of the boys in the neighborhood do have those in some form or fashion. Some have really long ones, some have just a little bit tucked behind their ear. And we had the discussion when our sons were little, and basically because my husband doesn't have these long peyote, it didn't make sense for our sons to have the long peyote. So we just, like I said, we just don't really cut there. Okay, next question. She also asked, what is my favorite Jewish holiday? I always, like, every time a new holiday comes around, I'm like, that's my favorite holiday. But realistically, I would have to say probably Purim, because we get to dress up, give presents to our friends, have people over for a meal. Like, it's just so much fun. And naturally, this is the next holiday coming up. Purim is in about 2 weeks, so make sure you are subscribed if you're not already so that you don't miss my future videos, because Purim videos will be coming up and Purim videos are super fun. Okay, Munkin93 asked, what is your favorite thing about being Jewish? That is a tough one. I had to think about that there for a minute. So I would say there's probably 2 things. So one, I would say, is the connection that I feel with God as a Jew that is much stronger than anything that I ever had before in my life. I was raised very Catholic, and I explored other religions in my 20s before coming to Judaism. But in any of those places, I never had this connection that I do as a Jew, and even more so as an observant Jew. So that's a pretty awesome thing, and I really definitely love that. The other thing that I really love about my religion is this sense of community. I could be anywhere and meet a Jew, and there's like this instant connection, and we probably know the same people. It's, at least some of the same people. We call that Jewish geography. It's a thing. But also just really the way that our community comes together and helps each other out with meal trains, or with babysitting, or with, hey, I'm going to the store, the kosher store that's 20 minutes away. So what does anybody need? And I'll pick it up and drop it off for you. Just like this really loving, wonderful kindness towards each of us from all of us. It's really, really beautiful. And it's, you hear about these like intentional communities, which is what they call like these kind of little commune things that people sometimes start where everybody's going to help each other out and things like that. But we have that already, like built into our culture. Like it's already there. We are living as Jews in this community, in an intentional community where we take care of each other, where we look out for each other. And it's really beautiful, and it's so lovely. And I really love that aspect of being Jewish. Okay, she also asked, do you experience much anti-Semitism where you live? We have had some, and like some is honestly too much. So there's several communities here in my area, and like all the kids go to the same school, things like that. So like one of our families, it was a rabbi, he had his car, someone like painted a swastika on his car, and we've had some Nazi graffiti here in the neighborhood, and there's been some things, but for the most part, it's not so bad, I suppose. I mean, anything though is too much. So, but overall, you don't hear a whole lot of stuff around here as far as anti-Semitism. So that is very nice. Okay, her next question, was it easy for you and your husband to agree on baby names? I love this question. Okay, so with our son, our firstborn, I chose his name. That was kind of the end of it. And my husband was like, well, dude, you're making the baby and birthing it. Of course you can choose the name. So that was great. So the baby was born. I told him what name that I chose. And he goes, awesome. Do you mind if we use this as a second name, as a middle name? And I said, of course, go right ahead. So we kind of both got to name him. I picked the first name, he picked the second name. Then our daughter came around and I had no idea what to name a girl. Like the whole time that I was pregnant, I thought her name was Yael. I was like, oh, her name is Yael. It is so simple. And then right before she was born, I was like, oh yeah, that's not it. So I really didn't know what to name her. And so she was born and I still didn't know what to name her. I think it was like a whole day before we picked a name. And I was kind of like, you name her then. I don't know what to name her. So my daughter loves hearing this story. So it ended up, it was a name that his sister suggested. And when he told me, I was like, oh, that's really pretty. I like that. Let's go with that. And so then that was her name. So I don't know who named her. His sister gave the idea. He told me the name. I said yes. So I don't know, whatever. It was a group effort. We all named her. And then our youngest son, I named him also. And that was just the end of it. He was born and I told my husband, here's the name. Okay, next question. Were there any names you loved that you won't be using? What names you love that you won't be using? I don't think so. Even the names that I thought my kids were named, like how I thought my daughter was gonna be named Yael and then she wasn't, I don't think I would use that name now on a future baby, so. Yeah, I can't think of any names right now that I'm just like, oh, if I had a kid, that's what their name would be. So yeah, not now, I guess. I feel like I shrunk. All right. Yeah, so I would say no on that one. All right, moving along. I got a question by email that said, how did you find a nature group for your kids? So there is an organization called Wild and Free, and I just got on their website. I think I heard their podcast. That's how I discovered them, because I love podcasts. And I just got on there and found a group in my area, and it happened to be a brand new group. So I started going to their meetups, and so we're a little over a year, close to a year and a half later, I'm now one of the group leaders, and that's how I found my nature group. Right now, it's just like the most fantastic group of mothers and kids, and it's like, oh, I love it. I wouldn't trade our nature group days for anything. It's the best. Okay, now we have some questions from Lisa. So Lisa asked, is the neighborhood in which you live primarily or even entirely Jewish? My neighborhood is not primarily or entirely Jewish, but we do have a much denser Jewish population here than anywhere else in our city, because we are here near the synagogue, so most of the Jews are living near the synagogue, or at least the religious ones, I should say that. The religious ones are here in this neighborhood. But there are quite a few Jews who don't go to our synagogue that are here, and there's a second synagogue also right here in our neighborhood. So there's really 2 synagogues worth of people living right around here. So as far as our city goes, definitely more Jewish than anywhere else. But like on my street, for example, like think about how long a neighborhood street is. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 Jewish families on our street. So out of, probably 50 houses, I don't know. So yeah, we definitely have Jewish neighbors very close by, which is amazing, but it's definitely not predominantly Jewish. Next question, is your head covering only removed in front of your husband, or do your children ever see your hair uncovered? My children do see my hair uncovered sometimes, but that's more like if they're coming into my bedroom or something like that. When I'm walking around the house during the day or whatever, and certainly when I go out, like my hair is always covered. I really only take it off to go to bed or to take a shower. So, or to change my head covering, which that happens often too. So those instances, if the children are around, they see it. I'm not like, oh, you have to leave, I'm changing my hair covering, it's fine. It doesn't matter if they see it. So yes, they do sometimes see my hair uncovered, but not often. All right, her next question is, when you worked outside the home, did the traditions of your religion interfere in any way? So this one's kind of fun. When I worked in California, it kind of did. I got my job out there. They didn't know that I was Jewish. They didn't know that I needed Saturdays off, and I was selling cars. So they hired me, and I was working there for like a week, and they still hadn't given me my schedule yet. And finally on like Thursday, I was like, I really need to know what my schedule is. So they gave me my schedule, and I was like, okay, so this is great, but Fridays I need to leave by 2 o'clock, and Saturdays I can't come in. And they were like, what? You're gonna lose your job. And I was like, well, I'm Jewish, and for religious reasons, I can't work on Friday nights and Saturdays. And they're like, okay, this is new. Their reasoning that I wouldn't be able to keep the job was because if I didn't work then on the busiest days of the week, on Friday afternoons and Saturdays, if I wasn't going to work then I wasn't going to make enough money, and you have to make a certain amount of money or they don't keep you. So that was the issue. So I told my boss, I said, okay, give me my hours and watch what happens. And he just kind of shrugged. He's like, okay. But I was quite confident. I was very confident that God was going to take care of me, because he would not have gotten me that job and all of that if it wasn't going to work out. So it totally worked out. And I sold plenty of cars and was able to do very well every month after that at the dealership. So it all worked out great. But yeah, so it almost did kind of interfere there, but not quite. But it does kind of play in, like if I wanted to go get a job today, it would play into what kind of a job that I could get. Because if it's a job that requires that you work Saturday, I obviously couldn't even apply to that job. Or if it sometimes needs you to work on Saturdays, or if the job is not going to let you leave early on Fridays, because sometimes Shabbat will start at a little after 5 o'clock, and if you're not leaving the office till 5, you won't make it home in time. So it would make a difference in looking for a job to figure out that. But really, the car dealership job was the only job that I had after my conversion, so that's really the only one that I can speak of. So at the beginning, it looked like it might have been interfering, if you can call. I mean, I don't think my religion really interferes, it's just me, but it didn't. So it all worked out great. Okay, Lisa's next question was, what is the process of converting to Judaism and how long does it take? Okay, this is going to vary a lot no matter what stream of Judaism that you are speaking about. I am Orthodox, so I'm going to assume that you were asking about an Orthodox conversion. So I would say that most Orthodox conversions, taking the time question first, last between 1 and 2 years. Mine was about a year, and that was considered kind of short. Now, I have talked to people who've done it shorter. I did, for example, I have a good friend who converted around the same time, well, on the same day that I did, but she started her process much later. She started her process of conversion and then basically moved to Israel, studied at a seminary for 6 months, and then moved back and converted. So because she had just really immersed herself and put so much time and effort and sacrifice into everything, she really was at this great level when she came out of that seminary experience after 6 months. And so she converted 6 months after she came and said, I want to be Jewish. So that was very short. Mine was a little bit over a year. That was considered extremely short. Most people, like I said, it's about 2 years or so. Now, I do know that the rabbis generally will want you to experience a full year of holidays. Okay, so let me tell you this isn't like my conversion story, which I will do one of these days, but this is just kind of like a nutshell version of like the steps that I personally took. So first I called the local Orthodox synagogue and I told the rabbi that I was interested in converting and asked him what steps I needed to take. He set me up with a couple of rabbis in his community who were doing formal conversion classes. This doesn't happen in every community. This is just what was happening at the time in my community. So I started going to those classes, and then at the same time, I was building up a relationship with my personal rabbi. At some point in there, I moved into the Orthodox Jewish community to be able to be walking distance of all of the other Orthodox Jews and the synagogue. And after that, I started learning with a couple of women in the community one-on-one, and then I had my conversion. But that's kind of the general gist of it. Obviously, every community and every rabbi is going to have a different process for that. And I'm really going to try to make an effort to record my conversion story soon. Okay, next question. Hannah asked, what inspired / pushed you to make a YouTube channel? Well, I guess I like to talk. Well, okay, so I see the way that Jews are portrayed in the media or on television shows and things like that. And there's so much more to Judaism than that. There are definitely Jews who are like that kind of like super Hasidic, kind of a Jew. There's that. But there's other kinds also, like me. So I just really wanted to show this sort of window into our culture and our religion through my life, because I think that's the best way to really show somebody what it's all about. you know, if you are not living in a Jewish community, you probably don't know a whole lot of Orthodox Jews. So this is a way to kind of get the word out there a little bit more, I suppose. Not in like a get the word out there and a trying to convert somebody kind of way. Jews don't proselytize. We're not actively seeking converts. But, you know, just to give people the opportunity who are curious to see what it's like. So there was that, and then there's also just the fact that I really enjoy this whole filming, editing process. Like, it's just a lot of fun. All right, the next question. M.A. asked, I know you touched on other religions with your children, but how do you explain if it's come up about Jewish people who practice the religion, but they're conservative or reform or even Hasidic Orthodox? All right, so that is a great question because there is this huge range of Jews. We're all Jews, but we all practice it a little bit differently, even among the Orthodox, like she said, with the Hasidic, and then the way that I practice, and the way that like Yeshiva somebody practices, or Chabad somebody practices. There's just like so many different ways of even just the Orthodox Judaism. Okay, so kind of the way that we touch on this is the same, really. We talk about it, and they also experience it because they see people who practice Judaism different than us. We have had people come and visit our community and even stay in our home for extended periods of time who are Hasidic, who will wear like the shtreimel hat. That's that big round fur hat. So we've had people from those sects of Judaism come and stay in our home, and my children were able to interact with them and talk to them. And then as far as like maybe less religious, there are people in our synagogue, people in our community, people that are my friends who come to our home who are less religious than us. So yeah, just having those really open conversations with my children, and that there isn't just one way of doing things, that everybody has their own way of doing things, and it doesn't mean that anybody's wrong or right, you know. And this also really comes up because we're Sephardi, and most of the people we know are not Sephardi. They follow the Ashkenaz customs. So there are things that we do very differently, from the way that we wash our hands to what kinds of foods we can eat on Passover. And these things come up, and my kids see that even our friends who are quote unquote the same kinds of Jews as us are still doing things differently, or we're doing things differently from them, however you want to look at that. So that's it. Yeah, a lot of open, honest communication. Sorry, there's a lot of noise in the background. Okay, the next question is from Tracy, and Tracy said, just wondered if you changed anything about your journey to Orthodox Judaism. Also wondered how it completes and complements and / enhances your life personally as a wife and a mom. Okay, so for part one of that question, no, I don't think that I would change anything about my process to Orthodox Judaism. Just kind of that path that I took. You know, whenever I think about changing the way that I did something, I know that it would just vastly affect the way that everything happened in my life. You know, if I had gone on this road a year earlier, would I have met my husband? Would I have my children? You know, it just becomes this whole thing of like, you change one little thing and everything changes. Okay, that may be getting a little philosophical or something like that, but that's how I look at it. So no, I wouldn't change a thing. I feel like everything happened in the right time, in the right way, and I'm really happy with that. As for the second part of your question, the fact that we have Shabbat really does enhance my life as a mother, because it gives me this built-in time to really, really connect to my family, to my husband, to my children. And, you know, that's such a beautiful thing. It's so important. And I feel like in this modern world of phones and social media and all this stuff, it's so easy to disconnect from even just the people that we live with. So putting those things away and focusing on each other without the work or anything else, it just keeps that connection. And when you have that connection with your family, it just makes everything so much easier. Okay, Tracy also asked, have you always been a crafter? And if so, who or what got you into crafting? Sorry, I think someone is using a nail gun in the next room. But to answer your question, yes, I have pretty much always been a crafter. My grandmother got me into quilting. She was a big time crocheter and crafter, so she was an inspiration to me. And also my mother. I grew up watching my mother cross stitch and sew my clothing and things like that. So seeing those things in my life by so many women that I admired definitely made it something that I wanted to try. And then of course I had so much fun with it, and I could see how they incorporated it into their lives in such a positive way. So it made it really easy for me to incorporate it into mine. Hopefully I will incorporate it into my kids' lives as well. All right, the next question. Which is your favorite of all the ones you do? So referring to the crafty things. I can't say that I have a favorite. I mean, at the moment, it's my nature journal, but if I was actively working on my quilt, I would say quilting. If I was actually working on a cross stitch project, I'd say cross stitch. Like, it's whatever I'm working on at the moment. Okay, next question. Do your kids get involved with crafting? And if so, what do they like to do most? Yes. So part of our homeschool is that I do handicrafts with my kids. Right now they're working on some weaving projects, which they're really enjoying. And then we also have painting classes regularly during the week where I'm teaching the kids painting. We're not like going off to painting class, though I wouldn't mind. I just haven't really found a place nearby that does that. But anyways, so we do these regularly painting classes where I'll sit down and show them painting techniques for watercolors, and we'll work on these, and we'll even do the same painting over and over again, trying to build up skills and see improvements. And so far so good. I would say painting is for sure their favorite thing, and second to painting would be any kind of cross stitching or sewing. They really enjoy those as well. Okay, the next question is, when your husband has free time, what does he enjoy doing for pleasure? Okay, so he's got a few things that he enjoys doing when he has free time. And so for one of those is learning Torah. He loves to sit down, pull a book out, learning Torah. He's learning how to read the Megillah right now, which is reading the book of Esther with this certain kind of song or tune. I don't totally understand it, but he's doing it right now. It's awesome. He also really enjoys off-roading, and he really loves to cook. So he doesn't get to do the off-roading as much as he would probably like, because it's, that takes up, a whole day of him going somewhere and driving around for a few hours and driving home. But he does do that when he can. That's also something he'll take the kids with him on, and that's a lot of fun. And then I get the house to myself for a little while, which is great for me. And his other hobby, cooking, he absolutely loves to cook, and he does that a lot, which is great. He's actually cooking dinner tonight, and it's a Thursday. I was like, okay, that's fine with me. Okay, the next question. Carrie asked, how do you keep the scarves on your head from falling off? I don't. They do, they slip and they fall, and I'm constantly like, I'll kind of pull out the back, kind of readjust it a little bit, yank it back and maybe move it to where I want it to be. So yeah, I'm doing that like all the time. Everybody I know has seen me do that like, I don't know, 5 times an hour. I do it a lot. I'll choose scarves that are kind of a little bit grippy so they'll stay tight in the back. The other thing that I do, which is a little tip that I learned from my sister-in-law when I got married, is right here, I will tuck under the scarf a little bit more. So like if this is, the scarf is folded in half and I'm about to put that over my head, then I'll just fold this little bit under and then put it over my head, and that helps a lot. So I just kind of fold over this part, and that makes it stay on a lot better. Don't ask me why, it just does. Those are the only pro tips I have for scarf wearing. All right, I know a lot of people do like the velvet headbands, though. You had already mentioned that you tried that one really working for you. I've used them in the past. I find them just to be kind of bulky, and I don't really enjoy them. And this works for me. This is really the last question now, and I'm glad that we crammed all these into 2 videos. I'm sorry that I'm talking fast. I wanted to get them into 2 videos so we could get on with other content as well. Even though these videos are really fun, I do love a good Q&A. Okay, Megan asked, do you and your husband have any shared hobbies? What do you enjoy doing with him? We don't really have any shared hobbies. I mean, we both love to cook, but we never cook at the same time. I'll often be in the kitchen cleaning up after him while he's cooking, or drinking wine at the table while he's cooking, but we're not cooking together. I think there might have been like 1 or 2 times when I was baking something while he was cooking, and I was like, look at us in the kitchen together, but like, yeah, that doesn't really happen. As far as camping, he has gone camping with me, but he does not enjoy camping at all. But he's very nice and has come with me a couple of times. He's not really crafty. I mean, he's crafty in the sense that he can like build a really awesome bookshelf and remodel my home, but he's not crafty in the sense of sitting down at a sewing machine or grabbing some knitting needles. So these are things that we do alone. And I am such an introvert that I recharge by being alone. So I don't mind that we don't have shared hobbies, because I'm happy to just like do my own thing to relax and unwind and have it be my thing, so that when we're together, it's something else. So things that we enjoy doing together, we love to just sit and talk. At the end of the day, a lot of times, I might grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine, and he'll grab, a glass of wine or a beer or a water, like whatever. We'll just sit down and we'll just talk. Just sitting at the kitchen table, chatting away, just about the day or whatever. We were doing that last night, and I was telling him about the differences between the TV show I watched and the book that I read. And I was just like going on and on about every little difference. And he was so polite and just listened. While I chatted away and kind of vented about how the show was just terrible now that I had read the book. But anyways, we'd like to go on date nights. And so when we go on date nights, we're super original. We go out to dinner and we'll sit and talk. We don't really like to go out to dinner that much because we do both enjoy cooking. So we'll go out to eat sometimes just as like something to do to sit down and hang out. But probably our favorite date that we'll do is we'll go to like Starbucks and I'll get a tea and he'll get a coffee, and then we'll go to a grocery store and we'll just walk around the grocery store and we'll go grocery shopping. It's hilarious. We'll like hire a babysitter so we can go grocery shopping together. And we'll actually buy groceries. Like, so we're walking around the store, we're talking about stuff, we both love food, and we're grocery shopping, and we'll try to pick a store that we wouldn't normally go to. So like normally we're doing our grocery shopping at this one store that has like the kosher butcher and stuff like that. But then, so we'll go to a store that we just wouldn't normally go to, like some other totally different chain or a specialty grocery store or something like that. And that just makes our experience really fun because we're both kind of like, ooh, look at that, let's try that. Ooh, look at that, let's buy that. So it's really fun. So that's, I don't know, maybe we're just food nerds or something like that. Okay, I think that answers all of the questions that you guys have submitted, at least at the time of filming. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it a close here. Thank you all so much for watching today, and especially thank you to everyone who submitted questions. This was so much fun. We'll do this again in a couple of months. Y'all know I love a good Q&A. Okay, in the meantime, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed this video and that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss any of my future videos. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in my next upload.